Ever catch yourself thinking back on NBA history and just wondering, like, what if? Like, what if just one thing had gone differently? Or what if a player hadn't gotten hurt?
It's like a rabbit hole, right? It's easy to get lost in those possibilities.
Totally. And that's what we're going to do today, dive headfirst into some of the most captivating what ifs in NBA history.
And you've given me some really good stuff to work with here. We've got articles, podcasts, YouTube videos, even just straight up fan theories from Reddit and those real GM forums. It's wild.
It's like we've got Give Me Sport and Fadeaway World giving us the big picture, then the NLSC podcast and Basketball Legends Life, adding all this extra context. And, we've got the fans on Reddit and Real GM, even rankings from Hoops Hype, which kind of add another layer to it.
And you know what's cool about that? We get to look at all these what ifs from all these different angles.
Right. We're not just stuck with one perspective. It's like we're putting together this big puzzle of how things could have been.
Exactly. And our goal, as always, is to try and make sense of all this for you.
We want to pull out the most mind-blowing what-ifs and really explore what those alternate NBA realities might have looked like.
Like, really try to understand how different the league could be if just a couple of key moments had gone a different way.
Okay, so let's jump right in. And honestly, when you're talking NBA what-ifs, you got to start with the draft.
Right. I mean, that's where it all begins. And for me, the 1984 draft and Portland passing on Michael Jordan, that's like the granddaddy of all NBA what-ifs.
I mean, come on. You're telling me the Portland Trail Blazers could have had a Michael Jordan?
That's the one, yeah. And what's crazy is they already had Clyde Drexler, who was no slouch himself.
Oh, yeah, Clyde Drexler. That dude was a beast.
Exactly. So Fadeaway World even asks, like, what if a Jordan-Drexler backcourt had actually happened? Would they have been the best two-way duo, like, ever?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big question, right?
It's crazy to think about. Like, how would those two even play together? They were both so competitive. But it's funny. Give Me Sport brings up this Kobe Bryant quote where he said Brandon Roy was the toughest player he ever had to guard.
Oh, wow. I didn't know Kobe said that about Brandon Roy.
Yeah. And Roy played for Portland, too. So it just makes you think, man, Portland has had some serious talent go through there.
They really have, which makes the whole Jordan thing sting even more.
It's almost like they were cursed or something.
Well, Fadeaway World makes the point that they were actually looking for a center at the time, which is why they took Sam Bowie instead.
And that's the classic debate, right? Draft for need versus best player available.
Totally. And Give Me Sport actually digs into that whole debate a bit. They say it comes up all the time. Like, should teams play it safe and fill a hole, or just take the best player on the board and figure it out later?
You would think best player available, right? But it's not always so easy.
It's definitely not. And in Portland's case, they went for need. And Fadeaway World reminds us that they basically spent decades chasing a championship that never came.
Yeah, they kept coming close but could never quite get over the hump.
Right. And what's wild is the real GM forums mention this whole thing where Houston, who had the #1 pick that year, actually turned down a trade with Portland.
Wait, really? What was the trade?
Portland offered them the #2 pick, which would become Bowie and Clyde Drexler in exchange for Ralph Sampson.
So Houston could have had Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, and Michael Jordan.
Well, they would have had Olajuwon and Drexler, and Jordan would gone to Portland. But yeah, think about that for a second. Like, that's a whole other level of what if.
The whole balance of power in the West could have been different for like 20 years.
Easy. Like, maybe even more. Those little decisions at the top of the draft, man, they can have massive ripple effects.
It's not just about one team or one player. It's about the whole league.
For sure. Okay, so speaking of landscape-altering moves, we got to talk about the Chris Paul to the Lakers trade that almost happened in 2011.
Oh, man. That one still stings for Lakers fans, doesn't it?
Give Me Sport, Fadeaway World, Reddit. Everybody is still talking about that one. You've got Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, and Dwight Howard all on the same team. That's like a fantasy team.
Give Me Sport even wonders if that backcourt, Kobe and CP3, could have been better than Steph and Clay in Golden State.
Right. Like, that's a serious debate. Could they have matched that dynasty?
Imagine that much talent on one team, though. It's almost unfair.
It is. But then, the commissioner, David Stern at the time, he steps in and just vetoes the whole thing.
Yeah, for basketball reasons.
Yes, the infamous quote, basketball reasons.
Yeah.
And Give Me Sport and Reddit both go into detail about the whole situation and the fallout.
I mean, that had to be a tough pill to swallow for Lakers fans.
Oh, for sure. And Fadeaway World even talks about how that veto might have messed up Chris Paul's chances at a championship. And obviously, it completely changed the Lakers' plans.
But it's interesting, though. No one really knows what those basketball reasons were, right?
That's the thing. It's still kind of a mystery. Was it about competitive balance, the salary cap, Who knows?
Mhm.
But whatever it was, it had huge consequences.
It's like a butterfly effect moment. One
Uh-huh.
decision changes everything.
Totally. Okay, so Fadeaway World brings up this other trade that almost happened. This one's about Stephen Curry.
No way, Steph Curry almost got traded. Who was going to trade for him?
Get this? The Milwaukee Bucks.
The Bucks. Wow. That's wild.
Right. But the reason it didn't happen, according to Fadeaway World, was because the Bucks had some concerns about Curry's ankles. He had some issues early in his career.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I thought he was going to be injury prone.
So imagine, though, a healthy Steph Curry playing with Giannis.
Oh, my God, stop. That would be unstoppable.
Right. A dynasty in the making. But on the flip side, Fadeaway World also says that maybe Curry wouldn't have developed the same way on a different team.
That's a good point. Maybe he wouldn't have had that same freedom to shoot and stuff.
Right. Or maybe Giannis, playing with a ball-dominant guard like Curry, maybe he wouldn't have become the player he is now.
It's crazy how one little thing can change everything, you know?
It really is. Speaking of almost trades, the Johnny Arnett YouTube video talks about this whole thing where Kobe Bryant almost went to the Bulls.
Wait, Kobe almost went to the Bulls. When was this?
Back in 2007. The Lakers were struggling, and Kobe, he actually asked for a trade.
Really? I didn't know he requested a trade.
Yeah, and according to the transcript, there was actually a deal in place. The Bulls would send Tyrese Thomas, Ben Gordon, Joakim Noah, and Luol Deng to the Lakers.
Holy cow, that would have been a huge trade.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's insane to think about. But the thing is, no one really knows why it fell apart.
It's another NBA mystery.
Yep, another one of those moments that could have changed everything, but we'll never know for sure why it didn't happen.
Makes you wonder how different things could be. Okay, so we've talked about draft busts and almost trades, but we also got to talk about injuries, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, injuries are a huge part of these what-if scenarios. And honestly, you can't talk about injuries without talking about the Portland Trail Blazers in the mid-2000s.
Oh, man, you're talking about Greg Oden, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Brandon Roy.
That's the one. All that talent and injuries just took it all away.
It's heartbreaking, really. Give Me Sport, the NLSC podcast, people on Reddit, they all talk about how good that team could have been.
And remember that Kobe quote we talked about earlier? About Brandon Roy being the toughest player he ever had to guard.
Yeah, that's insane. Kobe respected his game that much.
It tells you everything you need to know.
And it's not just Roy, right? Oden was supposed to be the next big thing, and Aldridge, and he had a great career, but who knows what he could have done with a healthy Oden and Roy by his side.
Give Me Sport actually breaks down how many games each of those guys played, and it's just sad. Oden couldn't stay on the court. Roy's knees were always a problem.
And Reddit even points out they had a decent supporting cast developing, too, like Batum, Patty Mills, Rudy Fernandez. That team could have been scary good.
For sure. It's one of those classic what-if scenarios where you just wonder, what if they had all stayed healthy? Like, we're talking about potential dynasties here.
It's not just individual players, it's entire teams that never got to reach their full potential.
Right. And another one that always comes up is Grant Hill and Penny Hardaway in Orlando.
Oh, man, Penny Hardaway, that dude was electric. And Grant Hill, he was supposed to be like the next Jordan.
Right. People were saying that, yeah, Give Me Sport, Fadeaway World, the NLSC podcast, everybody was hyped about those two.
Yeah.
And their early success, it really did look like something special was brewing.
But then the injuries hit, and it was just brutal.
Yeah, Grant Hill's ankle problems and Penny's knee issues, it just derailed everything. Fadeaway World even talks about how if Hill had stayed healthy, he might have ended up playing with Tracy McGrady in Orlando. Like, can you imagine that?
Another what if on top of a what if.
It's wild. And that's the thing about injuries, right? It's not just about one player's career. It's about the whole team and what they could have accomplished. Okay, so another player whose career was tragically affected by injuries, and this one's tough to talk about, Derrick Rose in Chicago.
Oh, man, Derrick Rose. That dude was something else. The NLSC podcast, Basketball Legends Life, everyone talks about how electric he was.
His MVP season at 22 years old. Are you kidding me?
I remember watching him play. He was so quick, so explosive. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
And Basketball Legends Life even says that if Rose hadn't gotten hurt, the Bulls could have won multiple championships.
They were that good.
They were. Rose was the engine that made that whole team go.
It's just such a shame what happened to him. Those knee injuries were brutal.
It's a classic what-if story, right? What if he had stayed healthy? What could he have achieved? And this is another one that's tough, but Bill Walton in Portland, a dude who was a finals MVP playing on a broken foot.
That's nuts.
I know, right? And Basketball Legends Life and Real GM both talk about his all-around game, his passing, his defense. He was a unique center, man.
But his feet were always a problem, right?
Yeah, those foot injuries just kept coming back, and they really limited him.
He could have had a truly historic career.
No doubt. Okay, so Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming in Houston, another duo with so much potential, but injuries just kept getting in the way.
Yeah, a lot of people on Reddit talk about that one. It's crazy how injuries can derail a whole team's plans.
Right. It's like a reminder that an athlete's career is so fragile. Like, you can be on top of the world 1 minute and then bam, it's all over.
And that's what makes these what-ifs so fascinating, right? They make you appreciate just how delicate everything is. But sometimes it's not just injuries, it's tragedy. And when you talk about tragic what-ifs, Len Bias is the one that comes to mind.
Oh man, Len Bias, that one hurts. Give me sport, fadeaway world, the NLSC podcast. Everybody talks about him and the potential he had.
He was drafted by the Celtics, right?
Yeah, and fadeaway world and basketball legends life even say he might have been able to challenge Jordan. Like,
Right.
that's how good he was supposed to be. And Hoofsight mentions this quote from Larry Bird where he said he was super excited to play with Bias.
Wow, that's high praise coming from Larry Legend.
Right? It tells you everything you need to know about the kind of impact Bias was expected to have.
And Basketball Legends Life makes the point that the Celtics might have been even more dominant in the late 80s and 90s if he hadn't passed away.
Yeah, that's another layer to the tragedy. Like, not only did the NBA lose a potential superstar, but the Celtics lost a player who could have helped them build an even greater dynasty.
And there are other tragic what-ifs, too, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. Like Reggie Lewis, another Celtics player who passed away way too young.
The NLSC podcast, Hoops Hype, Reddit, they all talk about him. Wasn't he the only guy who ever blocked 4 of Jordan's shots in one game?
Hoofside mentions that, yeah.
That's crazy. He must have been a defensive beast.
Yeah, he was. And it's a shame we never got to see what he could have accomplished over a full career.
And then there's Ben Wilson, the high school kid from Chicago who was murdered before he even got to the NBA.
Hoopshype and Reddit talk about him. He was supposed to be one of the best high school players ever. Another devastating what if.
It's just so sad. You think about all the talent that's been lost over the years, like Dražen Petrovic, too, the guy from Croatia.
Reddit talks about him. He was another one who was taken way too soon. So much potential gone. Okay, so let's change gears for a second. What if some of the great teams we've seen actually stayed together?
Oh, yeah. Like the Oklahoma City Thunder with Durant, Westbrook, and Harden.
That's one that always comes up. Give Me Sport, and a lot of people on Reddit talk about it.
It's crazy they traded Harden away, right?
Give Me Sport actually says it was a financial decision.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, it seems like a huge mistake.
I mean, those 3 dudes were all in their prime. They could have been a dynasty.
Easy. They could have won multiple championships. And it makes you wonder, what if they had just found a way to make it work financially?
The NBA landscape would look a lot different today.
For sure. Another one that's interesting to think about, Shaq and Kobe on the Lakers. What if they had stayed together longer?
Yeah. What if Shaq had Kobe's work ethic?
Or if he had been a better free throw shooter? Reddit and the NLSC podcast both talk about that. Like, what if Shaq had come back in better shape after that 1996 season?
He could have dominated for even longer.
Right. And who knows how many more championships they could have won together.
I mean, they were already a force to be reckoned with. Okay, so there are a ton of other what-ifs out there, right?
Oh, so many. Like, what if Carmelo Anthony had gone to a team that better suited his style early in his career? That's one that Give Me Sport and Reddit both bring up.
Yeah, Melo on a team built around him, that would have been something to see.
And then Fadeaway World asks, what if LeBron had never left Cleveland for Miami in 2010? Like, how would that have changed the East?
I mean, the Heat wouldn't have won those 2 championships, that's for sure.
Right. And who knows what would happen in Cleveland? It's crazy to think about.
And the NLSC podcast brings up the 2002 Western Conference Finals between the Kings and the Lakers. What if the Kings had actually won that series?
That was a controversial series for sure.
Super controversial. A lot of people think the refs helped the Lakers win.
Yeah. And the NLSC podcast wonders if the Kings could have actually stopped the Lakers from winning 3 straight championships.
That would have been huge.
It would have rewritten history. Okay, so the Johnny Arnett YouTube video talks about another controversial playoff moment, the Suns' suspensions in 2007.
Oh, yeah. Amara Stoudemire and Boris Diaw getting suspended for leaving the bench during a fight.
Right, exactly. And the video makes the argument that if those two hadn't been suspended, the Suns might have actually won a championship.
They were playing really well that year.
They were. And they were up against the Spurs in the Western Conference semifinals. So who knows what might have happened if they had been at full strength.
Okay, so here's the ultimate what if, and I bet a lot of people have thought about this. What if Michael Jordan hadn't retired the first time in 1993?
That's the big one, right? Reddit talks about it a lot. Like, would the Bulls have just kept winning championships?
They were so dominant, I don't see how they could have been stopped.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that. They were on another level. And the Johnny Arnett video throws out a couple more what-ifs just for fun.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Like, what if Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash had both ended up on the Raptors instead of Vince Carter? Or what if Maurice Stokes hadn't gotten hurt and his career hadn't been cut short?
Those are both
And
interesting.
then he gets into some even bigger what-ifs.
Right.
Like, what if the ABA had never merged with the NBA? Or what if all the ABA stats and records were just combined with the NBA?
That would change a lot of things, wouldn't it? Like guys like Julius Erving and Moses Malone would have even more impressive stats.
For sure. And then just for kicks, he throws out some crazy hypothetical matchups.
Hmm.
Like, what if Wilt Chamberlain had fought Muhammad Ali? Or what if Shaq and Hakeem had played one-on-one?
I'd pay to see that. Okay, so after going through all of this, it really makes you realize just how crazy NBA history is.
Doesn't it, like, so many things could have gone differently?
It's all about talent, injuries, decisions, even just plain luck.
Right. And when you start thinking about these what-ifs, it really makes you appreciate the things that actually did happen, the successes and the failures.
It's like looking through a different lens at the history of the league.
Totally. And it makes you wonder about all the possibilities that we'll never know about.
So here's a question for everyone listening. Of all the what ifs we talked about today, which one do you find the most interesting?
Yeah, and which one do you think would have had the biggest impact on the league? Like, really think about it. What would have happened if just one little thing had gone differently?
It's mind blowing to think about, right?
It is. And honestly, we've only just scratched the surface here. There are so many other what-ifs out there to explore.
Yeah. So go do some research, talk to your friends, and keep thinking about those alternate NBA realities. It's a fun way to look at the game we all love.
Totally agree.